Hello, welcome back to BlenderSushi Live Coding. In this video, we're gonna further explore and observe the idea of animating multiple objects using Svechok. I look at this add-on called Commotion. It's for Blender. It's one kind of an add-on that can easily offset animations of objects, whether it's an F-curve or other kind of animations. I think it's kind of interesting. Maybe at this point, Svechok or animation nodes cannot do that yet. Actually, animation nodes can do that, but I kind of want to try using Svechok to do that. Well, anyway, let's just improvise and let's have a look. Let's say you have a cube and you just want to move it up from position A to position B, like that. Is it something that's easy to do? Let's see if we are using Svechok, and let's say we are using object ID get. Save this. This is Svechok animating many objects. So this will grab every single object in the scene. You can actually filter it further using object ID filter. Okay, say this is for every object. Let's start with a cube. We want to animate it moving up, so we want to use object set. By default, this set to delta locations, so you don't need to worry about the original position or the default position. The default position will be this location, while the one that's changing is going to be the delta location, delta transform. So if we use a vector in, it's going to move the objects in using the delta. So that's kind of like the driver on top of the location. The animators or you can still animate it using the normal way. So let's reset the location, animate using the delta. So I'm using this object ID filter because if I'm using like if we have multiple objects like this monkey and we have the torus, for example, if we didn't use the filter, if we just skip this and plug that in, see, I'm gonna animate the whole mesh. But if we use the object filter, we're just gonna animate the cube and every object that has a, I think has a name cube. Oh, actually it didn't work like that. Interesting. It used to work. Oh, actually, yeah, it does select every object that starts with CU, unless we filter it again and kind of specify name. Okay, that should be pretty clear. Delete that, and let's animate this guy using just numbers. Sometimes animating using numbers is not particularly clear. Sometimes you just, when you're animating in CG, normally if you use the keyframe base, you set up the original position and then you set up the second positions and you keyframe, and then the software will just interpolate between the two positions. But if you're working using nodes and using numbers, this is not so clear unless unless you're comfortable with numbers, but I'll try doing my best. Let's say if we are using frame, plug into the Z, now this object is gonna move following the changes of time if you use the stethoscope. So this number will drive these objects in the Z-axis. Okay, maybe I'm gonna have multiple objects anyway, 5 objects, and no matter what, this will control every object. We're gonna offset and stagger the objects at later stage. Currently, we just wanna use, let's say we're gonna use map range. This node is particularly useful, especially for interpolating values, because we know the time will always go from start frame until the end of frame, right? It's linear. But by using map range and with clamping, we'll be able to change the timing. Let's say, okay, the value of time goes in there. Alt min and alt max can be our kind of like a timing. Let's say we want to start animating at frame 20 and finish at frame 50, with the value actually goes from 0 to 10. 0 to 10. The durations of 30 frame from 20 to 50. Plug that into the Z. Now, if we scrub the timeline, this thing's gonna animate. I'm gonna create a timeline here so it's clear. Look at this time. It's gonna start animating when it hits 20, and between 20 and 50 it's gonna go up. So I guess that's pretty useful. We could also doing the offset using math here. So let's say I'm gonna use add and range float. How many objects? We have 5 objects, and we want it to be maybe 10 frame different. We can try that. So this single stream of time and 5 different values. Plug the output into this guy, and now we should have some kind of offset. Interestingly, these objects start first, and it seems like it goes backward in sorting. So sorting is another thing that I think we need to consider if we have multiple objects, because we want to the ability to control each objects and kind of know where's kind of to time the animation, where to start and where to end. That's kind of the idea. Here we are actually changing the time, and the map range is gonna take care of everything. Supposedly we have a single value here, and then maybe randomize the alt min and alt max, kind of the durations, the in value and the out value, and then the new minimum and new maximum can be the same. I wonder if that actually gonna work. Normally I add another add here, kind of to offset the time further. So now if we have the animation that goes like that. Seems like it's stuttering a little bit. don't know why, but anyway. So yeah, instead of doing it like this, perhaps I want to try, if we have a single time value goes in there, and here we have random minimum and maximum. Let's say random number generator, 5 different value, float, minimum maximum, maybe 10 and 30, this one 30 and 60. Plug that in, oops, plug this in, plug that in. Now I wonder if this actually works. It might not work. Stethoscope. Let's check the value. Okay, we only have a single value. Apparently this doesn't quite work. I wonder if this is by design or interesting. Maybe it's really controlled by this time value that we need to repeat. So if we have 5 times here, we have 5 value, and I think this is supposed to work. Let's see. Level 2 or level 1. Unwrap. So this is the minimum value, and this is the maximum value. Let's check. 20, 40, 24. The value seems to be correct. I'll try increasing the value here, and let's check the result. They are still animating at the same time, which is strange. In this, the value seems to be different slightly. Maybe I need to use list join. So now they're behaving properly. So yeah, interesting. So I didn't know. Maybe it's this is something that we need to be aware of. So list join and list repeater. Maybe this guy always need to be joined back if we actually want to use it. Interesting. So in a way, this is kind of more easier to understand. Let me save this, save again. New, min, and max. The next thing that I want to kind of raise is the easing functions in Svechok. So by default, everything is moving in a linear fashion. Supposedly we can use this to give some kind of slow in, slow out, ease in, ease out, or whatever. All these kind of functions that Blender provides. Supposedly this works right away, but it probably doesn't work because this function will expect value between 0 and 1. So that's something we need to be aware of. So we need to use another map range with a value between 0 and 10, 0 to 1, value goes in there, clamp off, and plug this guy there. Let's try, my favorite is back, is in, out, and plug this in there. So hopefully we have some kind of ease in and ease out. So it's starting, it goes back a little bit and then it's moving up, but it's only moving in between 0 and 1. So we need to use another map range into this guy. So between 0 and 1, go from 0 to 10. This part probably a little bit more confusing compared to the animation nodes workflow, but I don't know, I kind of like it. So let's observe the whole thing again. So we don't need this guy. We can randomize the time, but you're not gonna do that. The time stream itself is just one. There are 5 streams of time, but we are randomizing the kind of the in and out of the animations, basically, using map range, another map range. Just because of the easing, we need to use this 2 more map range. But anyway, the output is this vector value, and we join it for our object ID. So yeah, the whole thing is a bit confusing, but kind of interesting as well. 0. This is just to normalize the value for the easing in and easing out. We can use anything, maybe like sine or bounds. Sine, ease in, ease out. Let's have a look. Oops, where is our time? Alt A. It's kind of stuttering a little bit. I don't know why. And easing in, easing out. I think I like the other one better. Back, ease in and out. Okay. Make sure here the clamping is off. I think that's how it should work. This is mapping the range of so this guy control the durations, and this guy supposedly controlling the value 0 and 10. I wonder if we actually need this guy. Maybe we just need to plug. Maybe we don't need this too. If we have like more objects, So we have how many? 35? Yeah, 35. We can just increase the number here. And everything should actually work. Now currently it's interesting. Oh yeah, of course, goes back and then overshoot and then it's settled. Always kind of interesting to see this effect, even though it's just a many objects moving at random time. Still kind of basic, but yeah, it still can be useful. And I'm especially interested in how we can kind of use it for other attributes. At the moment, I'm not even gonna try using the F curve. It's kind of a little bit complicated with the F curve. Maybe you better use add-on like Commotion Add-On, where you actually have multiple objects and then it can offset the F curve and the animations using the add-on. I kind of want to do that using animation nodes or Svechok, but at this moment it seems a little bit difficult. Let's try this on the scale. Kind of curious if this is gonna work. Vector in for the scale, objects is the same. So now everything is at 0, 0, 0. The output can go in there. Actually, it should be from this guy. We need to map range again. Map range. So this is actually the advantage of using this method. From 0 to 1, scale it to from 0 to 2, or from 0.1 to 2. Plug this into the scale. Okay, now it should be. Now this guy should be moving up and also scaling up. Start from the beginning. Maybe hide the grid. We have this thing, 3D view. Hide the grid. Okay, animate, start. So every object moves down and moves up, and then also scaling up. It's pretty basic effects, but then can be interesting. Supposedly it also worked in the real time. It shouldn't stutter. And the cool thing about this is, of course, this is not a simulations, and this should work really, really fast. This is almost like as if you are just setting up Blender driver. So this is very cool, very fast, and you can scrub. While you're scrubbing, you can also change the seed here. I always like to do that. Randomize the seed here until you find the one you like. With the scale, make it 1. It's gonna overshoot anyway. It's gonna scale up and settle. Maybe new max 1.2, something like that. It's gonna overshoot. So this is like around 150 frame of animation. I think the whole idea is, once you're happy with your procedural animation setup, you can simply turn on automatic keyframe and then let it run, and then you should bake it. Maybe it's baking it, maybe it doesn't. Okay, I need to set a keyframe first, I think. Keyframe, location, rotation scale. Let it run and let it bake. Oh, actually, this guy need to bake the delta locations. Okay, delta locations, scale. But the scale doesn't seem to bake. No, I think I reckon this kind of baking is no longer, baking into keyframe is no longer something that's recommended. I think it's easier to just select all of this object and then export as Alembic for selected objects only, and export Alembic. Hopefully this actually works. Sometimes yeah, hopefully this works, and start a new fresh Blender and then delete everything, file, import Alembic, desktop, and load the animation, and yeah, we have it. And this should run really, really fast in real time. So yeah, it's that's kind of the beginning of the whole this animation, procedural animation business using Svechok. Ideally, would be nice if we are able to visualize the animations, kind of for, let's say you have objects A, and the animation goes like this and then stop, right? And then you have object B, and I'm gonna use different color. And you have that. Another one. To visualize this guy. This is gonna be super beneficial. But for now, we just kind of have to visualize everything inside our brain. Kind of, okay, this is just a simple animation. Okay, it's just like moving in from one position to the next position. It shouldn't be complicated, because eventually, if you really want, if you have like, I'm thinking, if you have like you have a character, and then the character is doing an animations, walking and jumping, and then just standing, and you have multiply of the character by 100, and you want the character to do all this, walking, jumping, and settle, and that's really something that you want to use like a Blender NLA, nonlinear NLE, nonlinear editor. It's in the animation somewhere. NLA is actually nonlinear action editor. So that's something that I'm not familiar yet with, but I would like to try to do that at some point. I don't know, using animation nodes or Svechok, or even just using Blender's own and Python scripting. Kind of itchy to try to do that. Even though that's kind of pointing over the area of like game programming. because you have like a character and then doing a certain behavior. Yeah, anyway, I don't want to get too complex at the moment. It's just like as long we understand this concept, like multiple time, whether the time itself is being offset or the value itself, this curve being offset. Okay, that's pretty much for this live noding. Any comments, suggestion, and feedback, just leave it down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for tuning in.